I found the email in my drafts folder 3 months before I intended anyone to see it. My grandson Marcus had left his laptop open on the kitchen counter when he went to answer his phone, and the screen showed a message to his college roommate. The words sat there in 12-point Helvetica, casual and certain. The old man's got money, but zero clue how the world works now. I'm just writing this out until he kicks it. Then I'm liquid and done with his boomer lectures. I closed the laptop without touching anything else. My hands did not shake. I poured myself water from the filter pitcher, drank it standing at the sink, and watched a crow land on the fence post outside. The bird tilted its head, examining something in the grass. I'd built the fence myself 22 years ago when my daughter was still alive and Marcus was a thought we hadn't named yet. The phone call ended. Marcus came back through the French doors, sliding them closed with his hip. He smiled the smile he always gave me, bright and easy, the one that looked so much like his mother's it made my chest hurt. "Sorry about that, Grandpa. Just coordinating with some guys about a startup thing?" I nodded. "You staying for dinner?" "Can't tonight. Got a thing." He picked up his laptop, tucked it under his arm. He was 23, lean and restless, with the kind of haircut that cost more than it should, and the posture of someone who had never had to carry anything heavier than a backpack. I'd put him through college. I'd bought him the car that sat in my driveway. I'd quietly paid off the credit cards he maxed out his sophomore year without asking him to explain the charges. "Drive safe," I said. He left through the front door. I heard the Audi start, heard it back out and roll down the street. Then I sat at the kitchen table where my wife and I used to eat breakfast, and I thought about what I had read. My name is Thomas Hartley. I am 69 years old. I spent 30 years building a commercial property business from one duplex and a truck to 17 buildings and an office with 3 people who answer phones. I still go in twice a week. I still understand every line of every contract. I still remember what it felt like to patch drywall at 2 in the morning because a tenant's pipe burst and I could not afford to lose the rent. My daughter Sarah died in a car accident when Marcus was 8. Her husband walked away from the wreckage and walked away from Marcus 2 months later. I became the fallback. I wanted to be more than that, but I settled for what was needed. I thought time would make the difference clear. Marcus moved in with me when he turned 19, not because he needed to, because he said he wanted to spend time with me, learn the business, understand what I had built. I believed him. He had his mother's smile, her quick mind, her way of making you feel seen. I gave him a room upstairs, gave him an office job sorting invoices, gave him space to figure out what he wanted. What he wanted, I began to notice, was access. It started small. He asked to use my name on a lease application for an apartment he never moved into. He asked to borrow my truck for a weekend and returned it with an empty tank and someone else's parking ticket under the wiper. He missed work twice a week, but always had an explanation that sounded busy and important. I let it go. I told myself he was young, that mistakes were the price of learning, that my daughter would want me to be patient. But patience is not the same as blindness. I began to watch, not with suspicion at first, just with the attention I had once given to properties I was considering. I noticed he never asked about the buildings, never wanted to tour sites, never took notes when I explained why a neighborhood was shifting or what made a good tenant. He asked about my accounts, about my attorney, about whether I had updated my will recently. "You're the only family I have left, Grandpa," he said once, his hand on my shoulder. "I just want to make sure you're protected." The email changed the context. It made me replay every conversation, every request, every moment of warmth. I thought about the way he had hugged me at my birthday dinner last month. I thought about the card he gave me, the one with the handwritten note about gratitude. I thought about the way he said he loved me. I believed we tell the truth in private. The email was private, or he thought it was. That made it true. I did not confront him. I am not a man who confronts without preparation. Instead, I called my attorney on a Monday morning and asked him to pull every document related to my estate. Then I called my accountant and asked for a full breakdown of accounts, assets, and projected values. Then I went to the office and told my assistant I needed copies of every invoice Marcus had processed, every hour he had logged, every piece of paper with his name on it. Is something wrong? She asked. Just reviewing, I said. The files arrived over 3 days. I read them at home in the study with the door closed, using the same lamp I had used to review contracts when Sarah was a child asleep upstairs. The numbers told a story. Marcus had been paid for 40 hours a week. He had worked generously 12. The invoices he processed had errors, small ones, the kind that would go unnoticed unless you checked against the source documents. Some checks had been written to vendors I did not recognize. When I called those vendors, 2 of them did not exist. The third was a landscaping company that had done work at a property Marcus claimed to manage but had never visited. I sat with that information. I did not feel anger. I felt something colder, something like clarity. He was not lazy. He was not confused. He was stealing in increments, betting I was too old or too trusting to notice. I pulled property records next. Marcus had signed a lease on an apartment in his name, using my address as a reference, listing himself as employed by my company at a salary I had never approved. The landlord had called my office to verify. My assistant, thinking she was being helpful, had confirmed it. Marcus had moved into a 2-bedroom loft downtown and had not paid rent in 4 months. The landlord was preparing to sue. When I called Marcus that evening, I kept my voice level. Can you come by tomorrow? I want to talk about some business planning. Sure, Grandpa. Morning or afternoon? Morning, 9. He arrived at 9:15, carrying coffee in a paper cup. He wore a polo shirt and new sneakers that cost more than my monthly water bill. He sat across from me in the living room, one leg crossed over the other, relaxed. I did not offer him anything. I opened a folder on the coffee table and slid a printed spreadsheet toward him. Can you explain these? He glanced down. I watched his face. It stayed smooth, but his jaw tightened, just barely, just enough. What am I looking at? Invoices you approved, payments to vendors I don't recognize, hours you billed but didn't work. He picked up the paper, studied it like he was genuinely confused. Then he set it down and shrugged. Grandpa, I think there's some mix-up here. I mean, I've been learning the system, maybe I made some mistakes. But this looks like you're accusing me of something. I am, I said. He blinked. His smile came back smaller this time, uncertain. Come on, you can't be serious. I'm very serious. He leaned back. The coffee cup sat on his knee. He stared at me for a long time, and I saw the moment his face changed. The warmth drained out. What replaced it was something harder, something entitled. You know what? Fine. Yeah, I skimmed a little. You've got more money than you know what to do with. You're sitting on millions, and you spend your time eating frozen dinners and watching old reruns. I've been the one showing up, the one keeping you company, the one making sure you don't die alone. So yeah, I took a cut. I earned it. I did not raise my voice. You think companionship is transactional. Everything's transactional, Grandpa. That's how the world works now. You're too old to get it. There it was. The thing he had written in the email, said aloud now, with confidence. I stood. You need to leave. He stood too, but he did not move toward the door. What are you going to do? Cut me off. I'm your grandson. I'm all you've got. You should leave now, I said again. He stared at me, waiting for me to soften. I did not. He set the coffee cup on the table, harder than necessary, and walked out. I heard the Audi start. I heard it rev louder than it needed to. Then it was gone. I sat back down and finished reading the folder. That afternoon, I called my attorney again. His name was Paul, and he had worked with me for 18 years. He had written my first will, updated it when Sarah died, revised it again when Marcus was born. I need to make changes, I said. What kind of changes? Explained what I had found. Paul listened without interrupting, the way good attorneys do. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. You want to disinherit him? No, I said. I want to teach him. We spent 2 hours on the phone that day and 4 more over the next week. I explained what I wanted. Paul pushed back on some of it, refined other parts, made sure everything was airtight. We built it carefully, like a structure designed to last. The new will had 3 parts. First, Marcus would inherit the business, all 17 properties, all contracts and assets, on one condition. He had to manage it himself, personally, for 18 months. He could not sell. He could not hire a management company. He had to handle tenants, repairs, invoices, everything I had done. If he succeeded, If the business remained solvent and all obligations were met, it was his outright. Second, if he failed, if he sold early or missed payments or walked away, the entire estate would transfer to a trust that funded housing assistance for single parents. Marcus would receive nothing. Third, I left letters. One for Marcus to be opened when the will was read, one for Paul with instructions, one for my assistant thanking her and explaining why I had not told her sooner. I wrote them by hand, each one, so there could be no question they were mine. I signed the documents on a Thursday morning in Paul's office. He had 2 witnesses, neither of whom I knew, both of whom worked in his building. They watched me sign. They signed below me. Paul notarized everything, sealed it, locked it in his safe. "You know he's going to be angry," Paul said. "I know. You think this will change him?" "I think it will show him what work actually is. Whether he learns from it is up to him." I went home. I made dinner, the same chicken and rice I'd been making for years. I ate at the kitchen table and watched the light fade outside. The crow came back to the fence post. I wondered if it was the same one. Marcus did not call. He did not text. I did not expect him to. 2 weeks later, I had a heart attack in my sleep. I woke up with pressure in my chest and barely made it to the phone before I collapsed. The ambulance came. They worked on me in the driveway. A neighbor stood on her lawn, watching, holding her bathrobe closed. I remember the oxygen mask, the sirens, the lights turning the trees blue and red. I survived, but only just. The doctors used words like significant event and long-term damage. They kept me in the hospital for 9 days. Paul came to visit. So did my assistant. Marcus did not. When I was released, I went home to a house that felt larger than it had before. My chest hurt when I climbed stairs. I slept in the guest room on the first floor. I moved slowly, carefully, aware that my body had become something fragile. Marcus called 3 weeks after I got home. His voice was bright, concerned, full of questions about my health. I answered them briefly. He said he wanted to come by to check on me, to help out. I told him I was fine. "Grandpa, come on. Let me at least bring you groceries or something." "I'm managing," I said. "You sure? I mean, you're not getting any younger. Maybe it's time to think about, I don't know, simplifying things. You've got a lot on your plate with the business." There it was. He had heard about the heart attack and saw an opening. "I'm handling it," I said. "Okay, but if you need anything, I'm here." I thanked him and ended the call. I thought about what he would find when the will was read. I thought about his face when Paul explained the conditions. I thought about whether he would rise to it or walk away. I genuinely did not know. 6 months passed. I recovered slowly, stubbornly, the way old men do. I went back to the office twice a week, then 3 times, then 4. I checked every invoice myself. I visited properties, walked through units, listened to tenants. I did not talk about Marcus. People asked sometimes, and I said he was busy with his own things. The truth was, I had not seen him since the day I asked him to leave. Then, on a cold morning in November, my phone rang. It was a number I did not recognize. I answered. "Mr. Hartley, this is Detective Brennan with the police department. I'm calling about your grandson, Marcus Hartley." My stomach went tight. "What happened?" "He's fine, physically. But he's been arrested. Fraud charges. We found evidence he'd been running a rental scam, listing properties he didn't own, collecting deposits, then disappearing. One of the addresses he used was yours." I closed my eyes. "I see. We'll need you to come down and give a statement. He used your business name in some of the listings." "When?" "This afternoon, if possible." I sat in a small room with gray walls and gave my statement to a detective who looked younger than Marcus. I explained I had no knowledge of the scam. I showed documents proving Marcus had no authority to use my business name. I answered every question precisely, without embellishment. When it was over, the detective walked me out. "For what it's worth, Mr. Hartley, you're not the first grandparent I've seen in this situation." "Does it usually get better?" I asked. He paused. "Sometimes, if they wanted to." I drove home. I made dinner. I sat at the kitchen table and thought about my daughter, about the way she used to spin Marcus in circles in the backyard until they both got dizzy. I thought about the moment I realized that he had her smile, but not her heart. Marcus called 2 days later from jail. I accepted the charges. Grandpa, I need you to bail me out. No, I said. What? No, I'm not bailing you out. His voice went sharp. Are you serious? I'm your grandson. I made a mistake. I need help. You made a choice, I said. You'll face the consequences. You self-righteous old bastard. You think you're better than me? You think your little property empire makes you some kind of saint? I let him finish. Then I said, I hope you find your way, Marcus. I really do. But I won't fund your destruction anymore. I hung up. The phone rang again. I did not answer. 3 months later, Marcus took a plea deal. Probation, restitution, community service. Paul kept me updated. I did not attend the sentencing. I stayed home, went to work, lived quietly. I thought about changing the will. Paul asked if I wanted to. I thought about it for a long time. In the end, I left it as it was. If I die tomorrow, I told Paul, he still gets the chance. That's more than he's given anyone else. Paul nodded. You're a better man than most. I'm a tired man, I said, but I'm not cruel. I'm still here. My chest still hurts sometimes. I still move slowly. But I go to the office. I check the books. I make sure the tenants are cared for. I built something that mattered, and I will not let it crumble because my grandson thought I was too old to notice. The crow still comes to the fence post. I watch it most mornings. It hops along the wood, pauses, moves on. It does not ask for anything. It simply exists, doing what crows do. I think about Marcus sometimes, about what he will find when I am gone. The will sits in Paul's safe, locked and waiting. It offers him a choice. He can step into responsibility, learn what work means, understand what I built, or he can walk away and prove he was exactly who he showed himself to be. I do not know which he will choose, but I know I gave him the chance. I know I did not leave him money without meaning. I left him a lesson, structured and clear, the kind you can only learn by doing. The last thing I wrote in the letter, the one Paul will give him, was this. You told me I was too old to matter. You were wrong. Age does not diminish worth. It clarifies it. I built what I have through work, patience, and integrity. If you want it, you will have to do the same. I hope you prove me wrong about you. I hope you find the strength your mother had. But hope is not a plan, and I will not bet everything I built on hope alone. This is your last lesson from me. What you do with it is yours to decide. I sealed the envelope. I gave it to Paul. I went home. The sun set. The crow flew away. I made dinner, the same dinner I always make, and I ate it at the table where my wife and I used to sit. The house was quiet. I was alone, but I was not lonely. I had done what I could. The rest was out of my hands. I thought about the difference between giving someone everything and teaching them to earn it. I thought about love and how it curdles when it is only ever given, never reciprocated. I thought about my daughter and how proud she would be, or how disappointed, or maybe both. In the morning, I woke up. I made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table and watched the crow return to the fence post. It looked at me. I looked back. Then it flew away, and I finished my coffee, and I got ready for another day. That is the story. That is what happened when my grandson said I was too old to matter. I did not argue. I did not fight. I simply built a structure that would teach him what I could not say in words. Whether he learns is up to him. Whether I see it happen is up to God or chance or whatever governs the timing of these things. But I know I did what was right. I know I protected what I built. And I know that when the will is read and Marcus understands what I have left him, he will have a choice. He can see it as punishment, or he can see it as the last gift a grandfather could give. I hope he chooses wisely. But I am done hoping for him. I did my part. The rest belongs to him. I am 69 years old. I have a heart that works less well than it should. I have 17 buildings that need attention and tenants who depend on me. I have a fence post where a crow lands most mornings. I have a table where I eat dinner alone, and I have a will that says exactly what I mean, signed and sealed, waiting for the day it matters. That day will come, maybe soon, maybe later. But when it does, my grandson will learn the difference between inheriting money and earning it. He will learn that age does not mean irrelevance. He will learn that the old man he dismissed was paying attention all along. And maybe, if I am lucky or if there is mercy in the world, he will learn that the hardest lessons are often the ones we need most. I am at peace with that. I have said what I needed to say in the language of structure and consequence. The rest is silence, waiting.